Hey guys, what's going on? In today's video, I just kind of want to briefly go over batteries, what the numbers mean, and what they mean to you, and sort of how to interpret them. We get a lot of people here at the shop that just don't know what they mean, and there's some confusing things out there. So, going to just kind of clear it up and keep it very simple. We're not going to dive into it too deep here. But as always, if there's any questions or you need anything, you can leave a comment for us here. We'll be sure to get back to you and get that answer. So there's a couple numbers on batteries that you'll see. All of them have, like this one, the Trinity. You'll see a 5200 right here. You'll see it says 2S, 50C, 7.4 volts. The Traxxas one, you see a 5000 milliamp. Your 3S, your 11.1, and then a C rating. So what does this all mean? And there's some other ones here you'll see too. Basically, when you look at a battery, this big number, the milliamp number, 5200, 5000, 5200, that is, you can sort of figure your gas tank size, your fuel tank. It's how long the battery is going to last you, basically per run, depending upon how hard you're running it, what the conditions, things like that. But it's really like your fuel tank size. And that's kind of what it is. So if you had this battery here, for example, in the Trinity, it says 5200. If this pack said 4000 milliamps with the same specs, you'll get the exact same performance out of the car, speed, power, everything. You just won't run as long. So that's kind of what those mean. Now, when you look at where it says 2S, 3S, down here it's going to say 4S. What those are going to mean is how many cells the battery is. These are all Lipo batteries, and that's kind of what we're going over here today is all Lipo batteries. So that's going to tell you what the cells are. And for the most part, that's going to correlate with the voltage you'll see. So on here where you see 4 cell, you'll see it says 14.8 volts. On the 2 cell, you'll see 7.4. The 3 cell, you're going to see it says 11.1. And what that does is they rate them at the nominal voltage and as per cell. So a Lipo battery, basically, when they're fully charged, is going to read 4.2 volts per cell on your normal Lipo batteries. Storage mode, you want to keep them at about 3.8 volts per cell. And a good charger will help you with all that. And we're going to get into charging and what those numbers all mean in another episode here, in another video a little bit later on. But for today, we just want to go over what these numbers actually mean. So what you'll see then is a 4S at 14.8, and so sometimes you'll hear people refer as what the cell is if they're running a 2S, 3S, or they'll say a 7.4, whatever. Now, where that can change is some of these batteries can be high voltage, and you'll see maybe 2S with 7.6. That's getting a little bit more advanced to higher end batteries, but this, for the most part, we're covering what is you'll most often see out in the real world for racing, bashing, whatever it is you're doing with your RC car. And you'll see numbers here, like here, this is a 5200 2S, same as here, however it's a 35C. Now this battery here, specifically from Gens Ace, says bashing on it, and that's what it's made for. It's made for an all-around type of setup. So again, your big number is your fuel tank size. This number with the S is how many cells it is. Now, and then the voltage correlates with what that one's going to be. Now the big one, which there's a lot of misconception on, is this C rating. So you have your C rating, which now is on all of them. So you'll see 30C, 50C. This one, the Traxxas, will say 25C with a 50C burst. The problem with C ratings is on some batteries, there's not really that industry standard that they're held accountable to. So you will see cheaper batteries sort of puff their chest out a little bit, pump themselves up, and it won't be accurate. You'll see a battery rated at 80C, and then you'll try to use it and go, well, why does it work the same way as my 25C battery? In reality, they probably are the same C rating. So that's where it can get a little confusing, and what can make the difference from a good battery to bad battery, and why you may look at one and go, why can I get this one for 20 bucks and this one's 80 bucks, but they look like they're the same number-wise. So it can be a little misleading, and why you typically just want to go for the better, more reputable brands, because you know you're getting very good cells that are matched cells, and they just perform better. But your C rating in a nutshell is the discharge rate of your battery. So when you see the 50C, 35C, The higher C rating means the battery can discharge at a quicker rate. Basically, where that translates into, if you have, say, a brushless car, a brushless airplane, something where you go from 0 to everything, it can keep up. It can just dump that in a big burst. It can have that power for today's very powerful brushless systems that are out there. So you'll see, like, some of them here will say C25 sustained 50 burst. That means, you know, when you're just cruising around, it'll stay at about that 25C, but then you punch it and go full throttle, and it really needs to light it up, and it's at quick on demand. You know, that 50C burst will allow that to help keep up. In racing, sometimes you'll see on specific classes, they'll say 5200 50C. This battery, for example, is really geared towards racing, mud boss, those sort of things. It has the exact numbers they're looking for. The part that is also a little misleading on some of these with the C ratings is higher C rating isn't always better. And I'm going to just touch on this just briefly, but if you have, say, a stock system or a very low powered system, you don't necessarily need a high C rate. You don't need to spend the money on a high C battery. If you're only running a brushed system or a BL2S or something simple, for example, because it doesn't have that demand that the battery would need to keep up with, or they don't have that same draw on the battery. So basically, it would almost be equate to if you fed a sink, your kitchen sink with a fire hose. You can turn that on at full blast, and the fire hose is barely doing anything. So if that fire hose was a 120C battery, but your system only needed 25C, it's that sort of scenario, if that makes sense. But they do it this way sometimes to just level the playing field, to make sure everyone's using the same sort of thing, and sometimes to keep them a little more budget friendly, to where you not have a guy running a 35C battery and somebody else running a 120, because some part of racing can be mental as well, so it just helps keep everything a leveled field on those. But your C rating is just your burst. Where that gets tricky too is also temperatures can very much affect on your batteries as far as what that C can perform. As the battery warms up, they tend to perform a little bit better, which gets into the internal resistance of a battery, which we'll touch that when we get into the charging, the charging video, internal resistance and what that means. But for today, we're just going to keep it at that. Your fuel tank size, how many cells, voltage, those numbers go together, and then your C rating. And it's usually on every battery. I only have this battery turned sideways just because the other way I didn't have all the information on the front panel. But that's about it. So if you have any questions on this, hopefully I covered it. I'm just trying to keep it basic. I know there's more in-depth explanations that you could get into, but I'm just trying to make it simple. So any questions, hit me up below in the comments, and we'll be happy to help you out. Otherwise, get out there and have fun with RC.